This video is brought to you by the fine folks at 1047 who work on Splitgate and recently released Season 2. But what's nicer than being sponsored by something is being sponsored by something I actually enjoy and has been on my mind lately. Splitgate is a game that I fell in love with long before this sponsorship, and if you haven't seen my review of it from over a year ago, I recommend giving it a look. With the recent issues Halo Infinite has been facing, it was interesting to boot up Splitgate and compare it to Halo Infinite and discuss the things that maybe Halo Infinite could learn from this indie game. Splitgate, in a lot of ways, feels like a semi-continuation of the community-driven philosophy that we don't see in a lot of games anymore. Seeing as it's a competitive shooter, there is a deep ranking system, complete with leaderboards and all the things that one would expect. But for those such as myself who play these kinds of shooters to relax, not sweat, Splitgate's social experience is designed a bit like the Master Chief Collection or Titanfall's mixtape system, letting you create your own matchmaking mixtape of modes and maps to search for. And when a group of players are found, you and the lobby are allowed to vote on which thing seems the most appealing, while emoting and memeing at each other. Yeah, lobbies? Voting? Remember that? Matchmaking wouldn't be complete, of course, without a proper progression system and career tracker alongside a battle pass, something that I really hope Infinite takes note of. Did I mention Splitgate also has infection? But here's the thing, so matchmaking is just one aspect of these classic social games. Custom games were the bread and butter of Halo's strongest releases. Halo Reach was probably the last truly community-focused Halo game released. It was developed for the community with extensive file sharing systems for screenshots, theater mode clips, forge maps, customs, etc. And because of that, Halo Reach was a game that was able to sustain its player base long after the game's relevancy. It's how games like Left 4 Dead 2 continue to have a sustained player base long after their prime, while games like Back 4 Blood that don't include those things are currently struggling to maintain their population. You essentially develop the game from the get-go with infrastructure that the community can then take and run with. The devs themselves can breathe easy and move on to whatever their next project is, while the community acts as a sort of self-sustaining live service. Splitgate recently saw the introduction of its own Forge tool that functions quite similarly to Halo Reach's in terms of controls and functionality. The game also has a theater mode function, and unlike the Halo Infinite one, this one reliably and quite accurately replays matches for you, which is probably where I should talk about one of the biggest things that I hope Halo Infinite could take away from Splitgate. So, something that's been rubbing me the wrong way is how modern Halo has gotten quite comfortable with lower quality polish, adopting the mindset of it will be fixed later, just launch it now, and allowing first impressions of a game to be quite sloppy and messy. When Halo Infinite's UI isn't chugging, slowing down my computer, locking me out of customization after finishing a match, taking ages to load things, or simply not loading things period, other things like its theater mode are barely functional messes. And it leads me to wonder, why is half of this stuff even in the game if it's not even gonna work, or even work reliably? Halo Infinite feels very much like a game still in active development from a functional standpoint. Its UI feels like a series of placeholders that definitely lack at least the presentation of stability. The messiness and unreliability of Halo Infinite's UI, its UX, its various features wouldn't be so much of a problem if the game was at least honest about its unfinished state, but according to the developers, the beta is over. This is a released product, not an early access game. By comparison, Splitgate's UI and UX is snappy, responsive, fast, and most importantly, reliable. I never feel as though I'm waiting on the game to catch up with my demands. It takes me to the menus I need when I click them. It completes the tasks I click on, and the experience of jumping from menu to menu is seamless and responsive. And most importantly, Splitgate is quite honest about its early access state. Despite Splitgate being a pretty damn polished experience, the developers were quite honest about wanting the beta tag to remain when I asked them about it. What Splitgate has currently is quite a lot to sustain its loyal fanbase, but the devs have more plans and they want to keep adding to the already relatively content-rich game. Until they feel that Splitgate is content complete, they want to make sure that the fanbase understands the game is still under construction, and that more stuff is coming, and only when they're happy with it will it be officially released. And that brings me to the final thing that I believe Halo could learn from Splitgate. Splitgate is by no means a AAA game, but the consistent communication and synchronicity between the developers and the community are worth discussing. They're constantly asking the community for feedback regarding things in the game, and changes or new additions usually arrive relatively quickly and without unwelcome surprises. Recently, 343 has struggled quite a bit with communication, making quiet, unannounced changes to their game that probably could have used community feedback before being greenlit, and then they have to spend development time and resources walking back those bad changes, which ultimately just wastes time for everybody. The Splitgate developers have been consistently open about their plans with the community and letting the community have a say long before sweeping changes are made, and it's fostered a level of trust within the Splitgate community. The community largely trusts the developers and believes their intentions for the game are in good faith. The speed and consistency of 1047, the developer, is something that I, as a Halo player, honestly feel a bit jealous of. So Splitgate Season 2 expanded on a game that was already in a fairly good place, and a game that I rather enjoy. Given the current issues that Halo Infinite has at the moment, it's caused me to begin looking at other smaller games and how they interact with their community. And I think that Splitgate provides an opportunity for Halo Infinite to learn from. The game is currently ticking all of the boxes that Halo Infinite is struggling to. And rather than simply pointing and laughing, I think the strengths of one game can support the other game. One of 343's biggest issues as a developer is their inability to focus on Halo's community-focused design and polish. When their games aren't launching as 1/4 the game Bungie Halo's launched as, they're launched in buggy states, or in the case of Halo Infinite, they launch both unfinished and unpolished. Splitgate may be from a different IP, but the respect it has for the games the developers grew up playing is felt. There's a passion and an enthusiasm for the style of social game that Halo used to be, and something that you don't find a lot in modern Halo titles. At least not until months, if not years after launch. If Halo Infinite hasn't been scratching that itch you felt for a decade now, give Splitgate a try. Even without the sponsorship, it's a game that I recommend to people who enjoyed Halo back in its social prime. Nowadays, in the world of live service games, impatient players and never-ending content treadmills that are required to keep the player base busy, games such as Halo 3 and Halo Reach felt kind of like they were ahead of their time by designing their games to be a player-focused experience. And Splitgate is a game that I find to be somewhat of a peek into the past and a reminder of how good we used to have it. Splitgate is a free-to-play game. It is pretty damn well optimized, and if you want, you can check it out on the PlayStation Store, Steam, Xbox, or I guess even your Nokia phones if you have those. What are your thoughts on Splitgate? I'm curious to hear your experiences. Let me know down below, and as always, if you enjoyed the video, maybe consider liking, subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next video.
Killing spree. Double kill.